This is Joyce Tice at the History Center on Main Street in Mansfield. We're sitting in the office at the Museum of Us. It's the 16th of March, 2019. We're talking to Mike Neff, who graduated from Mansfield High School in 1970, and he has some very interesting experiences with the state championship basketball team we're celebrating this year, and he's going to tell us about them.
Well, Joyce, thank you. My privilege to be here with you at the History Center. As you mentioned, I'm a graduate of the class of 1970 Mansfield High School. Proud to be that. But in 1969, as we all know, the state championship basketball team in Mansfield had a spectacular year and won the state title. I, as a junior in high school, had been working for the local radio stations, WNTE, which is the college radio station to then Mansfield State College, and I was also working in Wellsboro with WNBT AM 1490, which was the commercial radio station. In fact, the only commercial broadcast facility in the county at that time. And I had been doing music programs, some news, but also did a lot of play-by-play sports, football and basketball primarily. And what a joy for me, a young guy who was going to pursue a career in radio broadcasting.
And you did.
And I did for 51 years, just retired from. It was my joy to be able to broadcast these games, not only from the local Mansfield High School gym, but all over the state, literally.
Really?
Where the Tigers played divisional playoff games and the state championship game in Harrisburg.
Well, that's quite a kudos for a child, for a young kid.
Well, I was always very honored that people thought I sounded older than I was. So they thought, who's this guy doing the game? Well, he's a Mansfield High School junior. And I was very touched and honored by that, but also it was a great responsibility for me to conduct myself professionally on the air. And one of the biggest thrills in my entire 51-year broadcasting career was to do the play-by-play announcing for that state championship game in Harrisburg, as well as the year that followed when our Tigers unfortunately were defeated my senior year. But back to broadcasting the basketball games. What made it so fun for me is I knew all the players. These guys on the floor, Tom McMillan, Stan Heinrich, Gary Slater, Rick Hill, Terry Stickler, all of these names that are synonymous with Mansfield basketball were friends of mine. We took gym classes together, English classes. We ate in the cafeteria. We went to the dances after the games with our girlfriends. Knowing these guys as I did gave me a unique perspective on being able to broadcast those games back then. I did it with the great assistance of the late John Fair. John was a member of the class of 1969, and he served many times as the color analyst, meaning interjecting in those pauses where something he saw with a particular play or player that in my role as just telling people what's going on, he could embellish it greatly with mental pictures.
Wow.
And that was a great thing that John did.
Sure.
So we had a great time going all over the county, number one, local games, and then also to the divisional playoffs primarily at the then CYC, the Catholic Youth Center in Scranton, where we would play Dunmore, Honesdale, other teams, and eventually end up in Harrisburg at the Farm Show Arena for the finals. So that year of 1969 was very special because literally in those years, Tom McMillan was a dominant player on the court. Now, not to negate Tom's value or skill in any way, but he was surrounded by many other players, and he'll tell you this, that without them, his greatness could not have been achieved. Tom Cole, Larry Kingsley, Jeff Hill, other names synonymous with Mansfield basketball, and under the coaching leadership of not only Rich Miller, but also the late Les Evans, the late Dick Jackson, who groomed these guys in earlier years, and Rich Miller kind of helped gel it all together wonderfully. These young men had great scholarly direction by some very good basketball coaches. But back to my point, yes, Tom McMillan on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Tom McMillan setting career scoring records. His co-players on the court were vitally important to him to allow him to achieve that. Tom was not a a selfish ball player by any means. These guys knew what he could do, but he also respected what they could do. And many times when Tom would be sitting out for a rest period or just he's carrying the game, the team that was on the floor as well could beat anybody. So Tom, a classmate of mine in the class of 1970, went on to greatness at the University of Maryland, the U.S. Olympic basketball team of 1972, a United States congressman, a member appointed by the President to the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. Tom has had a meteoric career outside of basketball as well, as all of those guys on the court have done as well. Tom Cole, our floor general at the time, on with the U.S. Naval Academy. I could go on and on.
Well, do.
But for me, as a young person who knew I wanted to get into radio, this was a thrill for me to be able to call those games and also have great respect for the other players in Tioga County at that time, from Wellsboro, North Penn, Liberty, Williamson, Cowanesque, Elkland. Getting to go to those gyms as well as our home gym in Mansfield was a lot of fun. So I did not pursue a career in sports broadcasting. I did do a couple of games later in my career, but it led to a wonderful opportunity for me to go to college at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, get a degree in communication, and right down the chute, my first job out of college was at KDKA in Pittsburgh, our nation's first commercially licensed radio station. But the majority of my radio career after leaving Mansfield in college was spent behind the scenes. Program director for the radio station, operations manager, and rarely on the air, but when I did, it always brought me back to my roots in Mansfield. And the fun I had at the college radio station, and also at WNBT at that time in Wellsboro. Your roots always stay with you, and I am so proud and privileged and fortunate that they began in Tioga County, with the Mansfield community being so supportive of us as students, athletes, those who were, very important, our town clergy, our town teachers and administrators that helped us formulate our lives. It was a great time to be a kid in Mansfield, Pennsylvania. And for this kid who got roots in radio here, it was a wonderful early advantage for me that when I went away to college, I'd already had about 5 years of experience, 3 years of experience of on-air work before I even got to school.
Wow.
So it was a wonderful opportunity, and Mansfield, it was on the map certainly because of our basketball, but in my heart and in my soul it remains there as a wonderfully opportunity for me to grow up here and spend my early years in Mansfield.
Well, we hear this from people all the time. They just really love that they started out here, launched their lives from here. Well, you certainly have a very good voice. You sound like the part.
Well, yes and no. I had the opportunity to be a program director or operations manager, which is kind of like the role of a coach, to propel other people much more talented than I to realize their potential and get even better. And I think that I learned that skill from the athletic coaches that I was surrounded by broadcasting these games. Dick Jones from Williamson, Keith Tomes in Wellsboro, and not only Dick Jackson, Les Evans, and Rich Miller here in Mansfield. I watched them coach beyond the skill of basketball, the nuts and bolts of playing the game. They were also, at that time, life coaches for all of us young men and the players on the court or the field, whatever the coach was. And that's why I have the greatest respect for coaches. They not only show you how to shoot the ball, but they also guide you in your life course and bring the best out in you. And I say the same for teachers. My mother, Winifred Neff, was many years a collegiate professor here at Mansfield State College in the English department. Both of my grandmothers and one of my great-grandmothers, all teachers. And teachers, in the same way, are coaches. They coach us in academics, whether it's mathematics, English, biology. They're not only instructing and teaching. A wise student is one who realizes they are a coach as well and can assist you in more than just the subject they are teaching. That's the point I'm trying to make. I have no basketball ability whatsoever. But Coach Miller, Coach Evans, Coach Jackson, and even back to the elementary school years of Coach Heaps, John Heaps, they instilled something beyond what was their primary purpose as a teacher or a coach. And those are lessons that I willingly accepted then and feel I've learned a lot from them even now.
Well, thank you so much. You're inspirational to these people watching this. And I have some good news that we have video interviews both with Rich Miller and Les Evans upstairs that I did back in 2011. They're not necessarily about basketball, although it enters, but they exhibit exactly what you're talking about with life coaching. So
And let's not forget Coach Wilson at the college, who guided many of the Mansfield State College basketball teams as well.
We have his jacket here.
Oh, wonderful. So thank you, Joyce. A real opportunity for me here today to be with you to kind of relive those wonderful years then that are still with me today. Thank you.
Thanks for speaking so eloquently.
Oh, my pleasure.